Chasing Hillary, 10 Years, 2 Presidential Campaigns, and 1 Intact Glass Ceiling by Amy Chozick. The tale begins on Election Day in 2016. Our narrator, Amy Chozick, a seasoned New York Times political reporter, is exhausted, emotionally drained, and slightly hungover. She's been covering Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign for 577 days, living on a diet of hotel coffee, press bus snacks, and adrenaline. It's all coming to an end, and the anticipation is palpable. Amy, along with the rest of the traveling press corps, known as the Travelers, is experiencing a mix of relief, excitement, and a touch of trepidation. They've endured a grueling campaign, marked by endless travel, sleep deprivation, and the constant pressure of deadlines, and are now poised to witness what they believe will be the election of the first woman president, or as they call her, the FWP. Amy reflects on her 10 years covering Hillary, a period that shaped her adult life and transformed her from a green reporter into a seasoned political journalist. She recalls the early days of the 2008 campaign, when she was a young reporter for the Wall Street Journal, still trying to find her footing in the world of political journalism, a world dominated by men and old-school traditions. She remembers the excitement, the camaraderie, and the challenges of being on the campaign trail, of living out of a suitcase and chasing a candidate across the country. Now, in 2016, she finds herself in a similar position, but with years of experience, a more jaded perspective, and a deeper understanding of the candidate she's been covering. The Travelers are a tight-knit group, bonded by their shared experiences, their exhaustion, and the unique demands of their job. They spend their days chasing Hillary, attending rallies, filing stories, and navigating the complex dynamics of the campaign trail. They have their own lingo, inside jokes, and rituals, and they rely on each other for support and companionship. They are a family, albeit a dysfunctional one, united by their shared pursuit of the story. As the day unfolds, Amy and the Travelers find themselves in Chappaqua, New York, Hillary's hometown, where she casts her vote. The atmosphere is electric, with supporters and media swarming around the Clintons, eager to capture a glimpse of history in the making. Amy manages to get a few words with Hillary, who expresses her gratitude for the support and her desire to bring the country together, to heal the divisions that have plagued the campaign. Later that night, at an Election Eve rally in Philadelphia, the Clintons share an intimate moment on stage. Bill embraces Hillary, and she looks at him with a mix of affection and exasperation, a look that speaks volumes about their complex relationship, one that has been scrutinized and dissected for decades. Their marriage, like their politics, is a mix of love, ambition, and compromise. The personal and the political are inextricably intertwined, a theme that will run throughout the book. This moment offers a brief glimpse into the private world of a very public couple. Amy had hoped to make a career out of covering Hillary's ascent to power. She had fantasized about having a front-row seat to history. Amy recalls how, in 2013, she was plucked from her role as a media reporter at the Times, covering the business of journalism, and assigned to cover Hillary full-time, well before the official campaign announcement. This decision, made by the Times executive editor Jill Abramson, marked the beginning of a long and often tumultuous relationship between Amy and Hillary's team, particularly the male press aides, whom she collectively refers to as the guys. These men, she comes to realize, are not just spokespeople, but also gatekeepers, carefully managing access to their principal. They are fiercely loyal to Hillary and deeply distrustful of the press, seeing them as vultures eager to pounce on any misstep. The presence of a woman at the top of the Times masthead did not go unnoticed by them. The guys, a rotating cast of about half a dozen men, are fiercely protective of Hillary and deeply suspicious of the press. They see Amy as a threat, a pawn in what they perceive as the New York Times vendetta against the Clintons, a vendetta they believe stretches back to the Whitewater investigation of the 1990s. They are masters of spin, adept at controlling the narrative and deflecting negative attention. Amy describes their tactics as ranging from icy silence to outright aggression. They use every tool at their disposal to manage the press and protect their candidate, employing a mix of charm, intimidation, and manipulation. They are skilled at playing the game, at knowing when to leak a story and when to kill one. They understand the power of the press and are determined to control it. Their loyalty to Hillary is absolute, and they see any criticism of her as a personal attack. Amy's relationship with the guys is complex and often adversarial. She describes them as a tragicomic Greek chorus hell-bent on protecting Hillary and destroying me. They are, in her view, both entertaining and infuriating. They call her names, question her qualifications, and try to undermine her credibility. They are, in many ways, the gatekeepers to Hillary, and they use their power to control access and shape coverage. They are the guardians of her image, and they will do whatever it takes to protect her. Their tactics are often ruthless, but they are also effective. They are the gatekeepers of her story, and they are determined to control how it is told. They were effective at keeping Amy at arm's length. The guys are also fiercely competitive, not just with the press, but also with each other. Amy's early stories on the beat focus on Hillary's paid speeches to Wall Street firms and the potential conflicts of interest at the Clinton Foundation. These stories earn her the ire of the guys, who see her as a traitor and an enemy, someone who is out to get Hillary. They accuse her of being biased, of playing the victim, and of gravitating towards salacious details. Amy, in turn, feels alienated and paranoid. She starts to doubt herself and her abilities, questioning whether she is cut out for this job. She wonders if she is too sensitive, too emotional, too much of an outsider. Despite the challenges, Amy continues to cover Hillary, driven by a mix of ambition, fascination, and a sense of duty. She sees herself as an anthropologist, trying to understand this complex and often contradictory figure, to decipher the layers of meaning behind her public persona. She wants to go beyond the carefully crafted image and capture the real Hillary, the woman behind the mask. Amy is determined to tell the story of Hillary Clinton in all its complexity, to capture both the light and the dark, the triumphs and the failures. She wants to understand what motivates this woman, what drives her ambition, what makes her tick. She wants to uncover the person behind the persona, to go beyond the headlines and the sound bites and get to the heart of who Hillary Clinton really is. Amy's journey takes her to Africa with Bill Clinton, to fundraisers in the Hamptons, and to countless rallies and town halls across the country. She witnesses Hillary's strengths and weaknesses, her triumphs and her stumbles. She sees her as both a formidable politician and a flawed human being, a woman of great intelligence and ambition, but also someone who is deeply private and often misunderstood. She is a woman who has been both praised and vilified, loved and hated. She is a woman who has spent her life in the public eye, but who remains in many ways an enigma. Amy tries to capture this complexity, to present a nuanced portrait of a woman who defies easy categorization. She becomes increasingly aware of the sexism that Hillary faces, the double standards to which she is held. As the 2016 campaign heats up, Amy finds herself caught in the middle of a media frenzy. The email scandal, which began with a seemingly innocuous story about Hillary's use of a private email server, takes on a life of its own. It becomes a symbol of everything people dislike about Hillary: her secrecy, her sense of entitlement, her perceived dishonesty. The private server, initially seen as a minor issue, becomes a major scandal, dominating headlines and fueling endless speculation. It is a story that will not die, a wound that refuses to heal. The scandal becomes a metaphor for the larger issues of trust and transparency that plague Hillary's campaign. The travelers are consumed by the email story. They chase it relentlessly, asking Hillary about it at every opportunity, determined to get her to explain herself, to admit her mistakes. The campaign, meanwhile, struggles to contain the damage. They try to downplay the significance of the emails, to dismiss them as a distraction, but the story refuses to die. It becomes a constant source of frustration and anxiety for Hillary and her team. The campaign tries to change the subject, to focus on other issues, but the email scandal looms over everything. The story takes on a life of its own, fueled by leaks, speculation, and the insatiable appetite of the media. Amy finds herself at the center of the storm. She is both a reporter covering the story and a participant in it. She is praised for her doggedness and criticized for her perceived bias. She is caught between her duty to report the news and her desire to be fair to Hillary. She is torn between her obligation to the truth and her loyalty to her sources. The email scandal becomes a test of her journalistic integrity, a challenge to her ability to remain objective in the face of intense pressure. She struggles to balance the demands of her job with her own personal feelings about Hillary and the campaign. The scandal becomes a defining moment in her career, a story that will shape her reputation for years to come. As the election approaches, the tension mounts, the polls tighten, the attacks become more personal, the stakes get higher. Hillary's campaign, once seen as a sure thing, is now on the defensive. The candidate herself seems increasingly frustrated and embattled, worn down by the constant scrutiny and the relentless attacks. She is tired of being the villain, tired of being the target. She is tired of fighting, but she is also determined to win. On election night, Amy is at the Javits Center in New York, where Hillary's supporters have gathered to watch the returns. The atmosphere is electric, filled with anticipation and hope. But as the night wears on, the mood shifts. The results are not what anyone expected. Florida goes to Trump, then Ohio, then Pennsylvania. State after state that Hillary was expected to win falls into the Republican column. The map turns red. The dream of a woman president fades. The impossible happens. The unthinkable becomes reality. The unthinkable, unimaginable outcome hangs in the air, a thick cloud of disbelief. Amy watches in disbelief as the impossible happens. She sees the shock and despair on the faces of Hillary's supporters. She hears the cries of disbelief, the sobs of disappointment. She feels the weight of history, the crushing blow of defeat. She feels the pain of a dream deferred, the agony of a hope extinguished. In the aftermath of the election, Amy struggles to make sense of what happened. She grapples with her own role in the story, with the choices she made, the stories she wrote, the questions she asked. She wonders if she could have done anything differently, if she could have changed the outcome. She wonders if her work made a difference, if it mattered at all. She reflects on her 10 years covering Hillary, on the highs and lows, the triumphs and failures. She remembers the moments of hope and excitement, the moments of frustration and despair. She thinks about the woman she came to know, the woman who was both admired and reviled, loved and hated. She thinks about the person behind the public image, the woman she tried to understand and explain to the world. She recalls the countless hours she spent on the road, the endless interviews, the late-night deadlines. She remembers the sacrifices she made, the toll the job took on her personal life. She thinks about the stories she wrote, the stories she didn't write, and the stories she wished she could have written differently. She begins to question her own role in the media frenzy, her own complicity in the spectacle. Amy's story is a personal and professional journey, a reflection on the challenges of covering a complex and controversial figure in a time of intense political polarization. It's a story about ambition, power, and the pursuit of a dream. It's a story about the media, its role in shaping public opinion, and its own internal struggles. It's a story about the power of narrative, the way stories are told, and the way they are received. It's a story about the search for truth in a world of spin and misinformation. In the end, Chasing Hillary is a story about loss, the loss of an election, the loss of a dream, the loss of innocence. It's a story about the human cost of politics, the toll it takes on those who participate in it and those who cover it. It's a story about the end of an era and the beginning of a new, uncertain chapter in American history. It's a story about coming to terms with defeat, about picking up the pieces and moving on. The story concludes with Hillary's concession speech at the New Yorker Hotel. It's a moment of grace and dignity, a recognition of defeat, and a call for unity. Hillary speaks to the young girls who looked up to her, who saw in her the possibility of a different future. She urges them not to give up, to keep fighting for their dreams. She reminds them that they are valuable and powerful and deserving of every opportunity. As Amy listens to Hillary's words, she feels a mix of emotions: sadness, disappointment, but also a sense of admiration and respect. She realizes that even in defeat, Hillary remains a powerful symbol, a reminder of what is possible, a testament to the enduring struggle for equality and justice. She is a woman who has been knocked down, but she is not broken. She is a woman who has lost, but she has not given up. Amy leaves the hotel, stepping out into the rain, and heads back to the newsroom. She doesn't know what the future holds, but she knows that her life has been forever changed by her experience covering Hillary Clinton. She carries with her the memories, the lessons, and the stories that will shape her future work as a journalist. She carries with her the knowledge that she has witnessed history, that she has played a small part in a larger story. Chasing Hillary is a deeply personal and insightful account of one of the most consequential elections in American history. It's a story about the power of ambition, the complexities of politics, and the enduring struggle for a more just and equal society. It's a story that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page, a story that will make you think and feel and question. It's a story about America in all its messy, complicated, contradictory glory. If you enjoyed this book breakdown, please consider liking this video and subscribing to get notified when we post our next book.